Okay, so this is every Warhammer faction or Warhammer Fantasy faction explained by Anchor's No Work. From what I understand, he's a pretty good source of information when it comes to Warhammer Fantasy. I think we actually watched one of his videos on stream a while back. It was his Pelennor White Strike Elder Scrolls video, which is a great video. Guess a little information about my background with Warhammer Fantasy. All I know is I played a ton of Vermintide 2 with Vulcan. Let's see what else. The Rats of New York won in the end, and then they destroyed the world. There's a hot dark elf mommy queen and her son, and they fuck. And then there's a hot Russian ice witch queen or something. So yeah, let's just get right into it, I guess.
Controversial statement. I like.
Hopefully that sounds good.
Warhammer. It's always a joy to have more people to play with and interact.
Let me turn it down. It seems a little loud.
It's a new chance for me to try and convert someone, anyone, into accepting that the Eldar are actually really cool and interesting. And please, just for 5 minutes, stop saying elf bad. But speaking of elves,
I don't know. Pelennor set the bar real high for elf bad.
There's always one thing in common with them. None of them realize there's more to Warhammer than Space Marines, Tyranids, and Spikier Space Marines. There's a whole other pair of settings that also exist.
Honestly, Warhammer Fantasy was probably my first real introduction.
Because the best Warhammer setting is right there.
Like, Vulcan talked about it, but
then it came back.
not so much.
You don't even have to collect
I got into it until, like, afterwards.
Kind of. Warhammer Fantasy has been around longer than even 40k. It's had its ups, it's had its downs.
Oh, here, let me fix the...
for a little bit, but thanks to Total War, Vermintide, and the constant nagging of the community, you can once again play in the old world. With elves...
Oh, did they fix the end times?
But also some more
that was kind of... Admittedly, that is, like, what little I know. That was one thing I did not like, is, like, there's a definitive end. Like, Warhammer, it never ends, and that's kind of, like, point of the tip up. Let me fix the chat box there. There we go. It's like, in the end, it's just like the rats won, which is a cool concept, but well, you're not a rat boy.
Magical frogs, rats, and Walmart shoppers. And not enough people know about them. Not nearly enough. And not nearly enough people learn that this setting is even a thing. So I'm gonna be doing my...
Hold on. They really are the Walmart shopper. Hold on. Stereotypical American art. On wheelchair. This is not what I was looking for, but whatever. It's just a bunch of sexy Americana women in wheelchairs. You will not look.
About them. Not nearly enough.
Yeah, I could not find it.
The setting is even a thing. So I'm gonna be doing my part today.
I'm doing my part.
Learn you all about every faction in Warhammer Fantasy. Some of them had extensive army lists and plot relevance. Some of them languished when unupdated army books for years on end, and some of them
Harlequins
were relegated to about 3 pages of background lore. Doesn't matter. We're
doing Harlequins.
If you can conceivably consider it an actual faction, they'll be here. Think of it as a companion to this video. That one was me trying to overview the setting. This one is about the groups of people.
Promoting another video of mine before this one's properly started. I'm a real YouTuber now.
So let's dive
oh, that's what I've been doing wrong.
And see what all that nonsense about them having the Warhammer is all about. But you're about to start listening to me list off all kinds of factions.
I guess that makes sense about the Warhammer part.
Raycon and their Everyday Earbuds, the sponsor of this video. Raycon's Everyday
Oh yeah, another Raycon sponsor. I guess we'll watch it because we're stealing his content.
Let's just get right into the features of these bad boys. Multi-point connectivity, so if you and someone else want to share the music, you can with no problems.
I do not want people sharing my earbuds.
The outside world just needs to take a step back for a bit.
I require the ability to hear outside. Outside of my headphones. You never know when someone's gonna come at me with a knife.
I've got them colored
or ping me with a car.
Case. It's got a nebula on it and everything. It's nice. You can get them in
that is kind of nice though.
There's plenty of colors to choose from. You know what's better than that?
It's better than mine that are just matte black. My headphone case.
I forget to charge my headphones pretty often and
how much was that?
And it's a battery per 10 minutes to choose from. You know what's better than that? A 32-hour battery life that gets 90 minutes of battery per 10 minutes of charging. I forget to charge my headphones pretty often, and combined with my complete and utter patience, that's usually a bad thing. But the
as a kid that played way too much of his DS, that's pretty good charge rate.
Good to go. I use them when I'm painting or assembling minis. It's nice and relaxing, and the sound quality lets me tune out the world and get into the swing of
Alright, let's see what he's got here. This is like those cringe like viewers show me their rooms. Well, he's got Funko Pops. That's unfortunate. So that's a pay deduction. Got the Dragon Ball poster. That's okay. The new Star Wars shit, new as in like the Disney stuff. That's a pay deduction. There's a JoJo poster over there. There's also a Zelda poster. What the fuck is this? Put your laundry away, my brother.
This is good because, as you can see, I have a lot of minis to work on. But even with your own shopping needs, you can still enjoy the Raycon Everyday Earbuds. Click the link in the description.
Maybe one day I'll get some. Maybe one day I'll get like a miniature or something.
15% off your Raycon purchase plus free shipping.
I'll get like a big one.
Brands, and with my link, you can get them at an even better price. Spice up how you listen to music, podcasts, and more with Raycon's Everyday Earbuds. Now then, let's talk about where it all began.
Orcs and goblins.
C, by the way, not a K. But across the board, the greenskins of Warhammer Fantasy aren't that different from the ones in 40k, which is why we're starting with them. They like to fight.
I mean, they're pretty simple.
People, they're green. If you took an orc from 40k and put him in a greenskin tribe in Fantasy, he probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Might wonder why no one has a decent shooter hanging around, but he'd be content with his life regardless.
I mean, is it the same as Warhammer 40k? Yes, but how can you top perfection? You know?
He might even be happier, because these orcs have characters like Grimgor instead of Ghazghkull. There are no thinking and tactics for Grimgor, only beating everything near him to death. The greenskins used to have some pretty different lore, being closer to D&D than anything else. They had half-orcs, and they didn't reproduce with mushroom spores. Then as time went on, that was moved...
How does that work? Would it just be like someone got infected? Because that is always the thing of like half-orcs, is like... You think like human society doesn't want them, orc society doesn't want them. Some orc societies and like tribes do, because yes, they are technically weaker, but because they're like half human, they're also a lot smarter. So that's what made them like kind of scary.
Away from, and eventually we came to where we are now in the old world. That being that the orcs hopped a ride with the old ones' ships when they came to the
Elves just did some real bad like mushrooms. They turned into orcs.
The entire world. The old ones and their servants did their best to get rid of the orcs, as they did all other races they weren't quite fond of, but you can't get rid of the orcs once they're on a planet. It's just not possible.
Also fair.
So nowadays, if you wander around a given area long enough, chances are you'll find some greenskins kicking about, making things worse for whoever lives there. The orcs themselves are one of the biggest similarities between the two.
Same insignia too. So is the reason there's a Warhammer like end times, is that because it's like connected to 40k? Or are they like two separate worlds that are just very similar? I'm curious, let me know.
In charge of the tribe, and if you get a real big boss, you might be in charge of multiple tribes. And when you get a really big boss, you can get a whole proper WoW going. When this happens, you get a whole lot of dead humans and dwarfs. Painting something red still makes it go faster, painting it blue makes it luckier, and can block arrows from killing the blue-painted orc. And they still love looting. Not nearly as much as in 40k.
And purple orcs are the sneakiest, because you ever see a purple orc? I haven't.
Sword he grabbed off a corpse. They do have some more savage brethren who judge other orcs for using things like basic tools or digging a pit to shit in rather than just letting it drop where you stand. But aside from being a bit more magical, those orcs aren't really all that different. Where you get the biggest change, though, is with the goblins. See, in 40k, grots are an entire species of plot irrelevance to the orcs. You'll get one like Makari once in a blue moon who are allowed to be in the shadow of the spotlight of a far more famous orc, but the goblins in Fantasy are an actual threat all by themselves. Sure, they're still cowardly and will refuse a stand-up fight unless they outnumber the enemy 40-1. Sure, they're still kicked around by the orcs and are used to do all the manual construction stuff. And sure, they're still slightly smarter than...
I like that they carved this angry moon. It reminds me of goblins there. Like, where do you think goblins come from? The moon.
Than the orcs, so anything resembling any actual construction or research is done by them. But every now and then, not often, but every now and then, you get a goblin who's a cut above the rest. And when that happens, everyone's in trouble. The goblins are cunning little buggers. They know in a straight up fight they're gonna lose, so they'll wait till the biggest orc around is sleeping and slit his throat. or poison his food, or convince him there's
These are
something
the half
shiny
orcs
in
I
a
was
nearby
talking
cave
about.
filled with hungry trolls. And sometimes, if they're really insane, they'll overdose on literally magic mushrooms, and when they come back to reality, they've slaughtered every orc in charge in a manic frenzy. Now instead of a big
Oh.
green moron who just about knows which way is forward,
The Goblin
you have
PCP.
someone like Skarsnik leading an orc army, a green little Sun Tzu who's
Where have
gonna
I
run
heard
circles around
that?
you and
Was Skarsnik from one of the video games? I feel like it is. I've heard that name before.
Or you can get one that pretty much just lucks into the position, like Grom the Paunch, hallowed be his girth. Instead of
The
being clever,
Paunch.
he just got incredibly lucky and was forced to eat troll meat. Instead of exploding, which is normally what happens when you do that, he just kept growing
Oh.
alongside it. 3 things happened.
Trolls are the ones that
1, he
regenerate,
got so
right?
incredibly fat he'd beat rival orcs
Ugh,
by
that's some
sitting on
Tomei
them.
shit.
2, he became a legend among goblins everywhere, the alpha male fantasy they all wish they could be. And 3, he nearly ended the world by sailing from the equivalent of the Middle East or Africa to the middle of the Atlantic and destabilizing the High Elves. If you like Gromp but wish they could, do anything important ever, maybe take a look at the goblins. Their history really isn't anything special though, mostly because they're greenskins and what you see is what you get.
Dude, I hate this picture. As someone that labels himself as a Pathfinder 1E survivor, I hate this. This is fucking Tolkien. It's the same with Pathfinder. It's like, what's the story between the orcs and the dwarves? The orcs raided their mountain and now they're left to wander, and now orcs and dwarves hate each other. It's always the same story. Except in Pathfinder, they just continuously just keep fucking up the dwarves. Like, the dwarves are like, alright, we gotta go to the surface because bad juju. Okay, we've established new kingdom. Fuck, the orcs took it. Alright, new kingdom. Alright, incredibly corrupt nobles ruined it. Fuck, okay, let's start over again. Okay, what now? Oh, this guy was actually a high priest of the god of tyranny and Draugr. Shit. Okay, now we gotta start all over again. Just stop, dwarves. Just stop. At this point, I'm starting to think you like being homeless.
Usually, they beat each other up. Every
Enough of the
now and then,
ranting.
one of them beats up enough orcs that he convinces them all to go beat someone else up instead. This continues until that war boss is killed, and then the orcs disband and go back to beating each other up again. Some evil dwarves like to use them as slaves, and when they tried to make bigger, stronger, and smarter orcs to use as slaves, they immediately learned why that was a bad idea when the orcs revolted. If you like
Shit, they
being mean and
think.
green, you'll like the orcs. And one crucial thing I nearly forgot, they love to dance. Warzak may be the
Ooh.
prophet of the orc gods first, but he's a hell of a dancer
Oh,
second. Now
oh
let's get
shit,
out of the
he's
realm
getting
of
down.
similarities and into some things fantasy really does different.
Damn, he's like Mo the Mouse.
When the old ones showed up, the planet they arrived on was ideal for creating the ultimate weapon
Oh,
to
it's
fight
just straight
chaos.
aliens.
Of course, they still had to create it. So to do that, they started by moving the planet closer to the sun to warm it
Huh?
up, which pissed off a lot of things on it, like the dragons. Speaking of, there were a lot of races on the planet that wouldn't really like to share the room with the old ones' creations.
What are
So
these,
to help
void
them with
elves?
the legwork, as well as get rid of all those fellas, the old ones created the lizardmen. They also created most of the other
They are
playable
super
races
sick
on the set.
looking.
So unless otherwise stated, assume all these factions started out as the test tube babies of the old ones in one way or another. The lizardmen were not
Okay.
this ultimate weapon against chaos, although they were still pretty good at fighting. You know how I said the orcs resisted extermination by the old ones? That was just them who managed it. Everyone else fell under a tide of angry lizards, dinosaurs, or angry lizards riding dinosaurs. With that small little bit of genociding out of the way, the
Would it be fucked up for a lizard man to ride a dinosaur? Or is it like, in Elder Scrolls, the Khajiit are affected by the moon cycle? And so, like, one of the cycles is just, like, a hulking brute of a, like, cat monster. And I was reading, there was a, Elder Scrolls story, and there was a Khajiit that basically she looked like a human. With, like, a few, like, cat features, and then she was riding one of those hulking things, like, yeah, this is my brother. Yeah, no, he's one of us, but, you know, I ride him in the battle.
the old ones set about making the world fit their needs. The lizardmen were their chief assistants.
I think it was, like, called the
As
Floating
secretaries,
City
they
or
could
something like that, I don't
possibly
know.
let old ones ones made them in several different flavors, all of them with a dash of Mesoamerican cultures thrown in, because if you have the option to have Aztec lizard riding dinosaurs, you have no good reason not to take it. First, you have the Slan.
He raises a good point. It's style and profiling.
They may be big fat toad people, but the first generation ones were the ones who changed the entire planet's orbit, moving around where it needed to be in space. Moving down the generational line, they did get weaker, but that's highly relative. Second generation Slan could only cause entire mountain ranges to suddenly appear at the drop of a hat. These were the lizardmen.
Okay, it's like Vampire the Masquerade. Every new generation you sire is like weaker.
Next, you have the Saurus. Stupid people might think that since
Because they're further from Cain.
Bronze Age civilization at best, they're not much of a threat. Then an 8-foot-tall monster from the Cretaceous period.
That's a cool weapon too.
Obsidian axe, and you find out just how the Saurus were able to depopulate an entire planet. These were the generals of the Lizardman army.
So I know, contrary, because I've never played Minecraft, I know a lot of people think this. Oh, okay, they said obsidian axe. And obsidian is super sharp, but it's really like brittle.
They were bred for
never
war
mind.
and only war. They're pretty straightforward, and all their characters have the same background of bred to kick ass, but this is Warhammer. That's a feature, not a bug, and they break it down to its simplest possible form. Next are the Skinks. They're little chibi gecko
Skinks. That's a good name.
Society. You need a building planned out or to do basic diplomacy, you send the Skinks. They're also skirmishers. When the trees start speaking great planese, it's the Skinks doing it. They've even got their own god all to themselves.
Okay, so these are like the goblins of the group.
He came around at first, but the rest of the lizardmen seemed content enough to let him be worshipped. Finally, we have the Croxagores.
Yo.
They build the buildings and gator death roll all
That's some Sobek shit.
That's it, but that's all they need to do. When Chaos first came and the Old Ones fled, the lizardmen had to figure out how to not only survive, but continue the Old Ones' work in their absence, which they kind of sort of have been pulling off a little bit. They held off the invasion at the cost of almost all the first Slan and most of their spawning pools, turning them into a very numerically disadvantaged race. Not that this stops them from
like the elves,
sometimes rampaging
in
across
the
the
most
world,
fancy
but they
settings.
are largely held up in the jungles of Lustria nowadays, also known as South America.
Lustria is a good name.
Fantasy is just Earth if someone with really shaky hands drew a map of it. They're isolationists, the Slan will spend centuries at a time meditating on the few plaques the old ones have left, and they really hate when tourists come to Lustria because it's usually to steal those plaques. They're all gold, you see, because gold doesn't tarnish or rust. Convenient for writing things down in a jungle, less convenient when all the warm bloods come to steal the shiny stuff. If you see a lizardman army, you're either screwed because the Great Plan dictates your death, or screwed because you're somewhere you don't think you should be. Very simple faction, but again, that's a positive. Sometimes being dino-brained is the
I remember hearing this faction is like super crazy. And like one of the pivoting things that caused the Skaven to start the end times was they like blew up a moon or something. And like the lizard men used the moon for like power or something.
way to go.
Yes!
Also known as the Imperium,
Humans.
but not as awful. These guys are the default protagonist faction. They're the strongest nation of men in the world, and that's no meaningless boast.
Is that the
here, because there's
Warhammer?
actual competition they have in that department, unlike the Imperium. They formed about 2,500 years prior to the setting's modern day, when a pretty cool dude named Sigmar was born. Sigmar had a dream, uniting the scattered tribes.
I know Sigmar from Saltspire.
To drive back the darkness and bring peace to the land. He did this chiefly by beating up everyone who disagreed with him, but in fairness, most of them deserved it. If this sounds familiar, let me just remind you that this guy was here first. Plus, Sigmar realized that outright killing everyone just because they disagree with you is perhaps a bad idea that will lead to problems later down the line, so he settled for only...
No, I'm sure it's fine.
Sigmar didn't just beat up people, though. He also beat up a lot of orcs.
This is very,
a lot of orcs. So many orcs that the
Ysgramor, very Nord from Elder Scrolls.
Surely the rest of humanity can't be that bad either. He united most of the tribes of
You know, it's the like barbarian men that slowly kind of turns like the imperial, like knighthood stuff.
To the most later, and formed the Empire of Man. 50 years later, he just
Wait, was that?
Humanity can't be that bad either. He united most of the tribes of man in the area, and you better believe he'll come back to the most later, and formed the Empire of Man.
Britonia.
50 years later, he just up and left. A little bit after that, he became a god, and the Empire soon worshipped Sigmar as the chief god of their pantheon. The Empire is pretty unique as far as fantasy facts.
Okay, yeah, even like the dude became a god.
Will reach the medieval era, and then very explicitly never move past that for the next trillion years of it.
That is a sick ass ferret hat.
History. The Empire isn't like that. When Sigmar was doing his thing, it was barely the Iron Age. The dwarves giving them steel weapons every now and then was considered the height of technological advancement. Nowadays, 2,500 years later, the Empire has tanks. Good tanks? Yeah. Look, for a Renaissance age civilization, tanks are pretty damn impressive no matter how good they actually are. They have factories, mechanical horses, and countless other things that make you wonder if the book you're reading was put in the fantasy section by mistake. They also have wizards.
So this actually just kind of raised an interesting point from my end. Is I've run like a few like tabletop RPGs in my day, and there's always seems to be this draw with the people, and this just could be who I associate with. You know, it's like the old adage in like Pathfinder, right? Is like maybe because some people don't like guns in their fantasy setting, maybe not have the gunslinger. This is the exact opposite. Every single person I played with has like every group has like skewed towards like heavy tech or like guns. I mean, I've talked about it before. Vulcan, he built a tank because I didn't want to deal with the fucking crafting rules in a like campaign that literally takes like a week or two. What else? Vulcan like with guns. It got a little biomechanical with how much people enjoyed guns. Don't ask me, I'm a sick man. And then I got everyone together for like a Fabula Ultima thing, and we like made characters, and it was basically a half lizard man that's just basically a black mage, angry frogman with a shotgun, and then dude wearing a mech suit. It was all super technology focused because they're straight up just like a magic technician class you can dip into in that game. So it's nice seeing a little bit of like technology, and he raises a good point. A lot of fantasy is kind of stuck at that certain period of time.
Who scam people out of $50 for the thrill was put in the fantasy section by mistake. They also have wizards who scam people out of $50 for the thrill of it. Politicians.
Okay, I know a little bit about that guy. He's a fucking roast god.
And the entire government, and enough floppy hats to arm the entire Holy Roman Empire with. There's still normal.
Like my boy Marcus Kruber.
Things that make the Empire great aren't genetically modified super soldiers or lost technological secrets from a golden age or even the direct intervention of their gods. It's faith, steel, and gunpowder. A whole lot of
hell yeah.
Give a man a halberd, a cause to fight for, and his friends by his side.
Fuck yeah, give him a halberd. Halberd best weapon.
The most determined of evil murder Vikings time and time again. Most Warhammer Fantasy books follow the Imperial characters around, and you get a good feel for just how fleshed out this land is through them. You've got the Heartlands, sure, places like Altdorf where it's interconnected with the wider world.
Reichland.
City through its colleges of magic, and elves and dwarfs can be seen regularly. Then you have backwater shitholes like Ostermark, where the people are outnumbered by everything nearby that wants to kill them, and guns are still a scary black magic invention for at least half the population. Or Averland.
That's for those people that don't want guns in their campaign.
Halflings for sport there. There's halflings in the Empire, by the way. They can vote on the next emperor because they baked a previous one a really good meal. They also had a civil war over pie. Don't be a halfling in Averland. You're gonna decorate someone's mantelpiece sooner or later. Of course, this
Poor
is
halflings, they never get anything good.
or not. Sure, I said it's not.
There's our boy Saltspire.
Imperium, but it still has witch hunters who will burn you alive for being a wizard, or being a mutant, or just for being a bit too ugly, because that's also a sign of chaos mutation.
Okay, I was gonna say justifiable until the last bit.
For 90% of people, this means it's a medieval civilization, but you might see more pretty statues and paintings than your ancestors did. You're still probably gonna die of the water making you poop too much. They're bored dead, beastmen are everywhere once you leave the city limits, and worst of all, they have people who have sex with horses for neighbors. The Empire is constantly on the defense, from orcs,
Horse Girl Gotcha game, what?
Beastmen, which are a different kind of chaos, and really anyone else who's feeling a bit bored that day. But the average citizen of the Empire will do their part to keep the hordes at bay, and at the end of the day, they did this for 2,500 years until the authors decided reality itself had to go, which is a pretty good track record. They're a human, relatable nation, like if the Imperial Guard got to actually be the main characters of 40K instead of Space Marine 9001, model on sale now for $60. It's grounded, with people having normal struggles, but also fantastical, with wizards and monsters being everywhere. They do have one ultimate ace in the hole, though, the reigning emperor, Karl Franz. The best statesman in the old world, and the guy who wields the Warhammer. You know, the one, the actual real
The Warhammer.
That's his, and he's very good at using it. He's the kind of politician who could convince you into giving him everything you own and leave you thinking you got the better deal, but also the kind of person
He'll
who
pay
will
off
do
in the
that to
end.
you.
He told
He's got
me. He
everyone's
showed me
interest
the
at
math.
heart, and overall,
It's just
this
an
guy's the best
investment.
emperor in Warhammer. Not Warhammer Fantasy, Warhammer in general. Kiss my ass, corpse worshippers. This one can walk, talk, and beat you to death in the name of the Empire. If you like relatable folk with a touch of the
You know, there's
fantastic,
something
Sigmar
about
is
a
your back.
a
But I did
commander
say
that joins his men on the field.
by Sigmar. Unfortunately, a couple weren't able to be integrated for one reason or another. Let's talk about the one that I like first.
Kislev.
Is all of Eastern Europe thrown into a pot and mixed to boiling until it coagulated into one Slavic specialty stew. They live in a frozen hellhole, which is also their country's greatest defense. They wear thick fur pelts. They have winged hussars. They also squat in the middle of a battlefield, because such is the natural state of the
Oh, is this the sexy ice witch Russian chick?
Alcoholism respect the drinking skills of a Kislevite. Kislev's
Product
job
of
in the
Sweden.
setting is to face tank chaos invasions before they get to the Empire of Man, which they do pretty well. Half their cities are torn down in the process, but they're a hardy bunch. They walk into the winter snow, and when everyone occupying their land freezes to death, come back in and rebuild. Their religion is different from the Empires, and they view them as weak Southerners, but the two nations are still staunch allies. Mostly because when the forces of actual hell are your neighbors, anyone else is going to be a good friend. They're led by the Tsar or Tsarina of Kislev, because GW was worried you wouldn't understand which region this place is based off of. Many times,
do you get it?
Before the world blew up, this was an ice witch, a handy person to have running your country.
It's like Pokemon Sword and Shield. That game beats you over the head. It's like, it's the UK. Do you get it? They love their football. Do you get it, guys? How about their curry? Do you get it? Do you know that this is supposed to represent the United Kingdom? Yes, Nintendo, we in fact get it.
Is considered a mild day. You still can't play as Kislev in the old world, thank you GW for that extreme blue balling, but they have some pretty heavy redesigns.
That's actually some cool concept art. I like that.
One-point feature Kislev. Here's hoping GW realizes that winged hussars riding bears is something people are interested in. Shame that sentence needs to be said. I don't know why anyone would ever need to be told that. Blat. These are those people who have sex with horses. When Sigmar was uniting everyone, they refused to join him, because obviously they were too good to join him. Did they have some super special magical secret or a technology that could let
This was the Marcus Kruger DLC, right?
Some other race
Grail Knight.
No, but they copied the elves' homework and our French, so they decided they were too good to shack up with a future god and went it
Oh, so they make whip-ass comic books and suck at everything else, huh?
Was making how it was a dynamic nation in a genre that usually gets to the medieval era and then freezes like it's going into cryo-sleep, and said no. We will not be doing that. We will be staying as medieval land. It is mandated by the government that technology will not advance.
It's tradition.
That society will never have any major upheavals, and that everything is just perfect the way it is. It's like that old decree the Pope made that declared crossbows were a blasphemous weapon, taken to be an entire society's philosophy.
Lame.
All about knights. Baby knights proving themselves, knights defending the realm and saving damsels.
Dude, their hats are so silly. I love them.
To further the goals and interests of the rest of the knights. Imagine King Arthur. That's it. Just imagine King Arthur stretched out to be a whole faction. The in-universe justification is that they saw high elf
and King Arthur's pretty sick.
With the concept. Out of universe, it's just King
I actually had a college professor. They're like, tell us to be about yourself. And at the time, I was like really into like Arthurian and like Celtic mythology. So I said a little bit, but like, yeah, this is what I'm looking at. Like, what I'm looking up now. And the teacher's like, I fucking love King Arthur. Well, they didn't say fucking, but they had shit everywhere regarding like medieval like King Arthur stuff.
And every medieval stereotype thrown together. You could admittedly say the same thing about the Empire.
Is that a ghost horse?
Empire or Kislev in Eastern Europe, but
I actually had a Pathfinder character, like a backup character for something like that.
So they get a pass from me. Bretonnia is the land of almost every fantasy setting ever conceived since Lord of the Rings, and it shows. Unfortunately, they can afford to do all of this fantasy stasis because an elf goddess is playing them like a fiddle. Their precious Lady of the Lake, also known as the elf goddess of magic, chooses some super special knights to become great.
What is it with like half elven stuff and like Arthurian vibes? Because that was the Bretons, right? In Elder Scrolls, I keep bringing up Elder Scrolls, where essentially the land of the Bretons is just it's just King Arthur. Granted, that was like one of the first places they did before they went hog wild with the lore. But yeah. A lot of similarities between that and like an elf influence.
Chalice of Bathwater, and when the now Grail Knight emerges, they're like
I'm
super
sorry?
Grail Knights. They, also known as the Elf Goddess of Magic, chooses some super special knights to become Grail Knights. They sip from her Chalice of Bathwater, and when the now Grail Knight emerges, they're like supercharged D&D Paladins. Bullets are an inconvenience, their armor is magically toughened, and their guns never tire. So until the Empire invents the Gatling gun, they're able to keep being aggressive backwater dickweeds. In older lore, they were tolerable, but in modern lore, someone must have felt they weren't angsty enough and made them nice and extra oppressive. The peasants are honored if the noble allows them to have 3 pennies a week instead of 2. Ladies who aren't magical are property because medieval times, and social mobility is a punchline. I hope you like medieval medicine. The Empire's medicine already isn't that great. Bretonnian medicine is the kind of thing that has a 300%.
Alright, here's what we do. You got a rash on your face. We got this. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pluck out all your teeth. Okay? No, I don't have any aesthetic. What the fuck is that? Is that another disease for me to cure? Alright, so anyways, you're already tied down, so you might as well get this over with. No refunds. I'm gonna rip out all your teeth one by one, okay? Just don't scream. No one can hear you. And then I'm gonna grind it all up. Okay, stop screaming. Do you want your rash gone or not? So I'm gonna grind all your teeth up into a nice, like, powder, okay? And then I'm gonna smear it all over the rash. That's gonna clear you up, no problem. What about your teeth? Dude, don't worry about your teeth. Your teeth grow back. You lost all your teeth as a baby, right? You got like rows and rows of teeth if you lose them. I'm sorry, who's the plague doctor here? I thought. Anyways, with those teeth.
Rate. And horses. Everyone has a horse. Even the lowliest peasants have a horse. A horse that more often than not eats and lives better than they do. I like horses, but I don't like them that much. If you've ever been to medieval times and made that your entire personality, Bretonnia is a good faction.
Yes, the land of the brownies.
Hates me, they're also one of the starter factions of the old world. So getting into Warhammer.
I mean, that makes sense. It's very vanilla.
Pick 'em if you like 'em. It is on some level.
It's like whenever I like try to like write fantasy because I enjoy world building, like, all right, no fucking elves, no fucking dwarves. We're not doing this Tolkien shit. And I'm also not biased because I'm a big Robert E. Howard pulp fantasy fan. Like, no, okay, this is what we got. Like, can you be an elf? Can I be a dwarf? You guys pick the most basic shit. Why? Why do you consume the slop? I say as I'm doing a reaction. You know what? I think I solved my own answer.
Cool, because for
It solved my own question.
them for being generic and bland knights. Knights are cool. There's a reason every 5-year-old wants to be a knight and not a landsknecht. I mean, for God's sakes, you're trying to say that word is difficult.
Well, you gotta start with Etrinossi if you want to be a Landsknecht overnight.
A direct hand in reworking them for Total War. Did you know there's a fully fleshed out Cathayan army book for GW?
Oh shit, there's a giant terracotta soldier back there.
Shame because Cathay is awesome.
That's sick.
Dragons are also awesome. Cathay agrees because they're ruled by immortal dragons who the Cathayans follow at every whim. Fantasy China is a magical place and one of the few places in the entire planet that might not be a terrible.
Hey, why is this demon here like super kicked up? Anyways,
every now and again it does what actual China used to do and implodes, and sure, those ruling dragons get along like all siblings do, i.e. barely at all, but in day-to-day life, not a bad place. And it always comes back together after imploding, usually after Mommy and Daddy Dragon come back to kick everyone's heads in until they start behaving again. It is, like I said, just fantasy medieval China, but that is a compliment. You know those terracotta soldiers? What if they were animated by magic and also 100 feet
so
tall?
cool.
Are you a 40K fan? Imagine if the Primarchs
I also love, like, out of all the weapons, the terracotta soldier has a fucking spear. Who are you gonna run through with that? Unless this is just like a weird angle. Wouldn't it make better sense to have, like, I don't know, something with a big surface area if you're that big, like a hammer? Or maybe like a glaive? Ooh, a glaive would be good. Guandao.
almost to a man, because that's Cathay. Again, for reasons I will never understand, we don't have them yet in tabletop. But Total War does, and by God, it's fun to play as Cathay. The Silk Road was prosperous in real life, and it's prosperous in war.
Man, the blue balling. I feel bad for the fantasy fans.
Show the world why China was for a good 1,000 years the most prosperous country on the planet. It's even better here because this Great Wall has magical dragon ladies guarding it. Oh, Cathay is also near the country.
Is that just a flying building? Dude, Cathay is sick.
Even better here because this Great Wall has magical dragon ladies guarding it. Oh, Cathay is also near the countries of Nippon, Ind, and Koresh. Nippon is Japan, Ind is India, and Koresh is Southeast Asia. I'm not giving them
They didn't even try with these.
their own spots because no one cares about them, and I can't bring myself to either.
Welcome
That's it for
to
the
welcome
non-chaotic living
to the
humans.
land of
The next few ones
kamikaze.
are
Can you guess what is
humans.
Japan?
The next few ones just
How
don't
did you
have
know
feet
it was
or skin.
on the nose? Oh, wait, what?
These are the bad guys. Next few
Sorry, I was
ones, that's it
memeing.
for the non-chaotic living humans, but that doesn't mean we're done talking about humans. The next few ones just don't have a heartbeat.
So there was basically like 4 non-chaotic human factions that are alive. The Imperials, the Bretonians, the Kislevs, and then the Arthe. Okay.
Or skin.
I mean,
These are
4 is
the
a good
bad guys
number.
when chaos is taking a break. Imagine Dracula, if you will. Now imagine
Wait, is that a
Dracula if
thing?
he had a 100,000 strong army of
Dude, I keep learning about... Fuck it. I keep like seeing just random stuff of like, welcome to this Dead by Daylight crossover with Castlevania. Like, what? I saw someone at work that had a Dead by Daylight Iron Maiden Eddie crossover. Like, what the fuck? Like Fortnite, you blink and suddenly there's a new crossover.
zombies, skeletons.
I'm glad that
lesser
fat is
vampires,
dead.
and pretty much anything else that you could find at a spirit Halloween.
The Fortnites, the Dead by Daylight crossovers, the multiverses.
Video, we're only going to go back a few hundred. We go to a fella named Vlad von Karstein, because if you haven't caught on yet, this setting is allergic to subtlety. He showed up to the very
I think that's all of Warhammer
on-the-nose
Fantasy.
province of Sylvania, which was a horrible
Well, no.
place to live. It was
Okay, no, that's just Warhammer in general, right? It's like, God, Warhammer just rips off so much shit. The Necrons are just basically the T-1000 Terminators. The Tyranids are just basically the bugs from Starship Troopers. What else is there? There's a lot. They are very blatant about it.
covered in
Sometimes.
swamps, the people were dumb and afraid of scary monsters, and because this setting is what it is, they weren't even wrong to be so. When a peasant in real life says the witch made their family ill with the plague, it's baseless superstition. When a peasant in Warhammer says that, there's a good chance they're right. When a Sylvanian peasant says that, they are right. Vlad shows up to this province, marries the daughter of the ruling noble to become its next ruler, and despite being
Nice.
a blood-sucking vampire, this place sucked so hard it
He's
was a
hot.
market improvement. Even better, him and his wife Isabella actually loved each other. They had
Oh,
vampire
that's
kids
nice.
like Conrad von Karstein, who was insane and liked to twist the heads off of peasants, and Manfred von
Oh.
Karstein, who was the worst. Of course, this wouldn't be Warhammer if everyone was just nice and peaceful.
Alright, everyone, what's your favorite type of vampire? I'm real keen on the Nosferatu looking ones.
So one day Vlad had a brilliant idea. What if he was the emperor? He could live forever and usher in an eternal age of
Shit, why didn't I think of
prosperity,
that?
mostly for vampires, but for some of the people too. So he tried to become the emperor. At gunpoint. Zombie point more like, but 100,000 zombies is a lot
Oh my
more
God, the
effective
teeth,
than
it's like
most
Gaping
Renaissance
Dragon.
age guns were. He failed, but the damage was done. Him, his wife, and their children spread vampirism across the empire. Now Sylvania is barely even considered a part of it, and everyone does their best to ignore it. This is probably a bad move, because every few decades some vampire likes to try their hand at raising
Question: if a vampire's technically dead, how do they have kids? I mean, the answer is always magic, but I feel like that's a cop-out.
a massive undead army to take over the Empire with. They all fail, but they're very murderous. Them failing means the Empire's population only drops by 20% instead of 100%. Just watch the first episode of Castlevania if you somehow haven't, for what it's like when the Midnight Aristocracy goes to war. There's a lot of vampires to choose from, though, to get your specific undead needs satisfied. The von Karsteins are the classic vampires, who want to suck your blood and rule over the night. The Lamians
Right
are
on.
the vampire KGB, with spy networks in pretty much every place on the planet. Except Lustria, probably. The lizards don't take kindly to that sort of thing. The Strigoi are what happens if your average Florida resident became a vampire, the Necrox are
Yep.
evil wizards, and the Blood
That's someone
Dragons are a heavy
Floridian
metal
blood,
album
yep.
cover. If you thought it was kick-ass
Oh,
when
sick.
Dracula sent the forces of hell to wreak havoc on the living, you'll love the vampire counts. But I did mention that some of the undead don't have skin, and vampires
I wonder what their
usually have that.
gameplay is.
For those fellas,
It's
they need
like,
to go further
I imagine
south.
like a lot of like lifesteal and shit.
Ancient
That's
Egypt.
basic vampires.
Ancient Egypt.
Yo,
Ancient
Skeleton
Egypt.
Birdman.
You now understand the basics of the Tomb Kings.
Oh fuck, that thing has swords for hands. And a Sword tail? Fuck yeah. I like the animal head ones. Man, I love Moon Knight and like all the Egyptian stuff and Khonshu. But goddamn, man, did I get sad when the TV show came out? The TV show fucking sucked. Where's my schizo vigilante that wears white so people can see him and what he does after he brutalizes somebody?
Ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt. You now understand the basics of the Tomb Kings. Once upon a time, thousands of years in the past, the lands of Nehekhara were prosperous. They had regular contact with their gods, magical constructs to defend themselves with, and when they had a good king like Setra, they would sometimes go on to conquer half the world. Then a fella named Nagash was born. He's awful. This man was a monster through and through. He's really smart, though.
Nagash strip does sound like a villain.
To teach him dark magic, which usually humans can't do. Smart enough to invent necromancy with what he learned. Smart enough to overthrow his brother, the king, and take over most of the land with his undead forces. And he's also quite powerful with his magic. He was eventually overthrown and cast into the desert where he died, but he invented necromancy. Death is a suggestion for him.
Yeah.
Such is his power. When he inevitably came
back,
he discovered someone had stolen his research notes and used them to make vampires. He made those vampires his generals, and no, they didn't have a choice in the matter, and then decided ruling just Nehekhara with undead.
I like that little angle. It's like, you're my slave. No, we're not. I made vampires. It reminds me of, I had this conversation a while ago of, the concept of, basically it was the Slayer's magic system of, like, more like shamanism. We have to invoke a powerful spirit and cast their spell. Lena Universe tries to cast Dragon Slave on Shabernigdo. Shabernigdo made Dragon Slave, so she couldn't use it against him. Like, no. I'm not letting you cast that spell so you can shoot me. So she couldn't use it.
Wasn't enough, so he formed a plan to kill everyone in the region at once, resurrect every corpse on the planet, and take over the world with his.
Oh, there's a Henry Kuttner story about necromancers. It's really good.
I promise you will love, and the last living dude in the region, which kept most of Part 2 from happening. Then everyone in
all the scave just gnawed on their bones.
Realized their hearts were no longer beating, but they were still standing, and things got messy. Imagine Game of Thrones before it became horrible, with all the political fighting over who gets to be king. Now imagine Game of Thrones if every single person who was ever the rightful king was now alive at the same time fighting over what was their throne. Not they believed it to be their throne, or they wanted it to be their throne, it was the throne they sat on once upon a time. And
that's interesting. I like that.
People were mindless undead skeletons who had the flesh flayed from their bones with the desert winds and could only follow basic orders, like kill that guy who thinks he's the real king. This does not a stable nation make. Luckily, the priest
it's actually a really cool idea.
Guy who cock-slapped everyone
so many factions you can have.
Again. Now the Tomb Kings no longer have skin, have no clear path to achieve immortal bodies to feel with again that they so crave, and no longer have the shit. Very gods. Fortunately for them, death is more of a suggestion. They can still use magic, even if not quite as good as it was when the gods were helping, and they now have eternity to do whatever they want, as long as it doesn't involve some sort of physical sensation. Sometimes they still fight amongst each other. Sometimes they spend their
Vampire the Masquerade's secret thing.
Hobbies they want, and
like, yeah, you're a vampire. You don't get aroused.
Half of it to the ground because someone stole their
He's like, all right, I have sex with a hot goth chick. With your penis? Well, yeah. You're a vampire. You have no blood flow. Ah, shit. You can spend you can spend some of your blood points. Is it worth it? Answer's yes.
And on the rarest of occasions, a tomb queen will tell a strapping young lad that if they still had functional genitals, she'd fuck him so hard the experience would kill him. They're very fun. They're true new.
Hold on. Warhammer Fantasy Tomb Queen. Oh, Chad, I think it'd be worth it. Queen Alida? It might be worth it, guys. It might be worth it for the Tomb Queen.
neutral to the core. Some of them want conquest, some of them just want to find new hobbies, some hate
Oh,
the
the
living out of jealousy, some don't
oh,
care
the
either way as long as
snakes.
they serve,
That's
and
so
some go out of their
cool.
way to find human members to recruit for their court because
Dude,
they're
these guys are
reminded of what
sick.
they've lost. If you can think of a motivation, there's a Tomb King that has it. It's a very simple thing to know if the Tomb Kings are for you or not. Do you like The Mummy? Do you like Ancient Egypt? Have you ever
fucking love the Mummy movie.
If the Sphinx came to life and started crushing people like Godzilla? Tomb Kings are perfect for you then. And hey, look at that. They're the other starter faction for the old world. Now you can get into fantasy proper without people like me dismissively calling you a horse molester. So now we can leave this region of the world and indeed humanity, and I have forgotten 4 human nations that deserve at least a little bit of credit. Shit.
Fuck, what are they called?
Nations that deserve at least a little bit of credit. Shit.
Tilia, Stalia, Border Princes, Araby, the Nobodies.
Tylea is Italy during medieval/Renaissance times, so it's thousands of city-states smushed into one country. It's right next to the Skaven capital. There are worse places to live. Estalia is Spain without the colonial empire. Both of these places say they're the first civilized nation in the old world, which the empire disputes. The border princes are the land of whatever the hell you want it to be. It is an excuse to make your own homebrew army, and they fight orcs more than anything. Most of the people there are either fleeing from...
That is one of the little nice things I liked about the 2 Lost Legions in 40k was just one of them is a Loyalist Legion, the other is a Chaos Legion. Just make up your own faction, you can say that's what it is. I don't think many people do that, but that's nice that they actually thought about that.
The empire, leaving
I appreciate
the empire in a futile attempt to make it big, and petty nobles. Araby is exactly what you think it is. Turn Aladdin into a war game faction, but only a background faction. And if you think that's me being dismissive of it, do please read about Sultan Jafar's military campaign against the old world. It's actually got advanced medicine, science, and
Sultan Jafar,
and theories, but I can guarantee the only thing you're going to remember about this place is Sultan Jafar.
God damn it. He's right.
Let's start by clumping all the elves together, because their backstories are all very interconnected. Don't worry, they'll each get their own time to shine. Once upon a time, there were just elves. The first species...
I like the Eye of Abendego in the middle.
They were made to be elves. Arrogant, long-lived, and short of the slan, they're the best wizards around. Then chaos descended, the old ones pissed off, and the elves had no idea what the hell to do. Eventually, a cool elf named Kalidor made a magical vortex. The cool elf Anarian grabbed the first sword that killed a whole lot of demons, and then everything cooled down a bit. Anarian disappeared, but they elected a new king, so all was okay. His children with his first wife even showed back up to be a bloodline of legendary heroes, though they're also cursed because of that sword. Then Anarian's told their son Malekith that he should be king.
Oh wait, hold on. This is the dark elf mommy I heard about.
Oops, because family trees can be shaped like Christmas. Son Malekith that they're also cursed because of that sword. Then Anarian's second wife told their son Malekith that he should be king, convinced him with her boobs because family trees can be shaped like Christmas wreaths if you don't mind being a freak, and a civil war broke out.
I mean, his mom is really hot.
Sacred fire to prove his worth, whereupon their chief god lit him on fire. Him and his mother kept trying to take over the home continent of Ulthuan. They nearly unmade it when they realized they couldn't, and then the newly formed Dark Elves were forced off of it to go live in Canada. The High Elves stayed behind, once again got to rebuild the shattered remnants.
Truly fallen.
At least they still had their firm friendship with the dwarfs. That's a good thing. Oh, wait, that got ruined too. But don't feel too bad. The High Elf King ruined that one for them himself by being the worst. That one wasn't an unfortunate tragedy. It was a
also Tolkien.
Imposed unfortunate tragedy. The dwarfs and the High Elves fought Fantasy World War I, and it was pretty miserable for everyone involved. Picking a victor is sort of meaningless because both groups were pretty thoroughly wrecked by the event, and the High Elves had to return home when the Dark Elves began the first of many invasion attempts to retake Ulthuan.
Just said, fuck it, we gotta go
home and sheltered in a magical forest called Athel Loren instead. Now we have our third group of elves, the Wood Elves.
My least favorite elves.
The suburbs to explain.
It depends. Bosmer's sick.
Are insane. Sometimes people walk into the magical forest. It's safe to assume that unless stated otherwise, they do not come back out of the magical forest. Sometimes even if you come out of the magical forest, you find that 1,000 years have passed since you entered, and every single
one I like that.
With you as you age to dust within minutes. Aside from that, though, your first instinct might
be like timey-wimey bullshit.
Uninspired lame D&D wood elves who love nature and harmony and trees. And in
fucking tree humpers.
All those things. It's just that these trees are 50 feet tall, mobile, have a craving for the suffering of mankind, and the wood elves will invite peasants to feasts to fatten them up for the forest spirits. They don't give a rat's ass about the outside world aside from how it might affect their perfect little lives inside them.
Okay, these smaller ones are actually super cool looking.
Forest.
Also, fuck Carillion. As a Marcus Kruber guy, I hate people that main elves.
Of the wood elves is getting other
main the
people to
elf.
get the hell off of their lawn.
Because
And when
they're
the
just
lawn
so
can come to
broken.
life and devour you alive, it's a pretty easy task to do that. They also gaslight the Bretonians into thinking their goddess isn't an elf one, although as it turns out later on, the extent of the elven gaslighting goes even further beyond their understanding. They're led by the avatars of two of the elf gods, naturally the ones that are focused on nature, because wood elf. The king likes to rampage across Bretonia every now and again for funsies, and the queen sometimes says don't do that, sometimes doesn't care, and sometimes encourages it when she's in a feisty mood. They're not my thing, truth be told, but I can respect the idea of wanting to be left alone.
The art for this, I can't tell if it's supposed to be like 3D or if it's just like super detailed like that.
Discord DM, these guys might be for you. The High Elves are the ones that stayed on Ultuan and remained much the same throughout. And like I said, the old ones sure as hell made them to be elves. Long-lived, magical, arrogant, and because they live for thousands of years, they're real good at what they do. Some of their swordsmen have been practicing for so long that they take into account the weight of their eyelashes when they swing. You're not doing that. And sure enough, the history of the High Elves is the history of them sailing out from the
How very
stop most of the problems
Emperor's Children.
faces. They taught humanity how to use magic properly, they keep excess magic from saturating the world, and they have a habit of showing up just as they're needed to stop things from getting completely out of hand. There's a high elf who destroyed orc warbands that have been rampaging since the dawn of time and was so good at it that he gave the entire elven race a reputation amongst the greenskins for being good fighters. All of this because a fat goblin burned down his house. And of course, Teklis, my beloved. Is there a 10,000-strong army of orcs, dark elves, or worse bearing down on you? Well, with a wave of his staff and a flick of his wrist, there is now a new crater. He's a real cool guy like that, and he's not even that arrogant. The flip side to balance this glazing session I've just done is that they do actually have weaknesses to go along with all that. They reproduce slowly, and in a wargame setting, that's the mark of death. Every death of them is a hindrance, although at least compared to 40k, they aren't outright dying. They're on the watch list for being endangered rather than being endangered outright. And magic being so innate to them means that when something with it goes wrong, they feel it and are affected by it more acutely than most. Like when their magical queen is sad. Their entire homeland's climate is tied to her emotions. And like any living being that isn't a psychopath, she is sad when a great amount of her people die. So when Malekith decides
it gets even worse
to get a million people
when it gets bad,
trying to retake his homeland again, it really sucks to live in the same country as her. They're also physically frail, which isn't the biggest weakness in the world.
That's crazy, the entire country though.
An orc is bearing down on them.
That's awesome.
Got a bit of a species-wide depression thing going on too. When you live functionally forever, you get a long time to get a real feel for what the world is like. And as it turns out, this world kinda sucks. They just don't have time to recuperate from any of their constant losses. The world is in danger, the High Elves sail out to fix the issue,
I like how
the world is immediately...
I'm sorry, I like how this image, you can tell exactly where it crops off. Especially like right here. Anyways, sorry, I got distracted.
Add on to that some more standard elven weaknesses, like their old age, meaning they don't always adapt to new things well, and you've got a race that has a bit of a deadline attached to it. Mankind is invented...
You know, there might be some people think like that's such a dumb train of logic. No, as someone that deals with a lot of old people, they don't understand that you need to press the fucking confirm button. Like, please put your first name. They put their entire fucking name. Please put your last name. They put their entire fucking name again. Like, yeah, no, this is entirely valid that the elves get stuck in the past because they're just old.
Guns, tanks, and more, and the elves think the bow and arrow remains the height of warfare. To their credit,
well, you got like a magic bow, yeah, I'm sure.
Especially when it's a magical lightsaber bow and arrow. And dragons. The High Elves are best friends of almost every dragon that isn't from Cathay. Dragons are scary in a fight, and let's be honest with ourselves.
Love dragons.
If a dragon declared your hometown to be the best thing ever and made sure to always visit and help out when it was in trouble, you'd have an ego the size of Mount Everest too. Overall, if you like elves, you'll like these guys. Even if you
I'm not a fan of elves, but these elves are kind of cool.
The High Elves' ability to actually put their money where their mouth is might win you over. And if nothing else, there's an elf character named Aletha Nar who skins dark elves alive because he just hates them that much. And is overall Michael Myers if he had pointy ears and special forces training. Hard to get more unelven than that guy. Speaking of ego, though...
Oh, here we
Take the
go.
stereotypical elven arrogance, or if you're not a big fan of the race, elven racism. Now jack it up to the logical extreme endpoint of the concept so that they don't only think they're the best, they think of all other races as vermin that should either serve them as slaves, be hunted for sport, or outright
Yeah,
eradicated.
that Tiamat
Welcome
shit in the
to Naggaroth,
background, that's
friends.
sick.
It only goes downhill from there. Warhammer North America sucks. It's home to the Dark Elves after they got kicked out of their old home, and the entire thing is either a frozen hellhole, a desert hellhole, or a frozen hellhole bordering actual hell. There's something called the Altar of Ultimate Darkness inside of this place. Do you think anyone that lives here is gonna be nice? Sure enough, the Dark Elves aren't nice.
No, but
There
I love
used
a
to be
woman that
some
will
human tribes that
actually
lived in
just kill me.
Naggaroth, and then the Dark Elves killed or enslaved them all. They have cities built into mountains they use as ships to raid and enslave others, they kidnapped high elf children to raise as Dark Elves, and the entire society looks like what would happen if every single Decepticon was Starscream. Murder and treachery are only illegal if you...
So I take it the Dark Elves and the High Elves, they are the same. I'm just imagining at this point now, it's that they just have like different skin tones just because of where they live. They're functioning the same, like in Dragonlance. Dark Elves are elves, they just did something really bad.
You get caught, and if you're powerful enough, not even then. They're led by Malekith and his mother Marathi, the same two elves who formed the Dark Elves 10,000 years prior. Marathi's kind of just always awful, but sometimes if you squint real hard, Malekith can almost sort of a little bit resemble a noble elf hero he once was. Then he does things like instituting the elven god of murder as the head of the Dark Elf pantheon.
Okay, that one's a bit hard.
Demons as auxiliaries when
Then again, if I was like shafted from my rightful place on the throne, I would probably hire the God of Murder to be my homie. You know, court intrigue and all of that, and then just strip like this is bullshit.
He invades Ulthuan and starts the Warhammer Fantasy Triangle slave trade. In spite of failing to retake Ulthuan every time he tries, he's a damn powerful wizard and warrior both. He's just Darth Vader, actually. He's even got the suit of armor that helps keep him alive because he was severely burned. And who can forget his mommy issues? Although I don't think Anakin ever piped his mother, so a little bit different there. There is no height of
I mean, if his mom looked like that, I'd do it too. She's so hot.
Killed because if you were strong, you wouldn't be injured. So clearly,
there you go.
More fitting should take your spot. They don't have as many dragon allies, and the ones they do are corrupted by dark magic. So they just grab whatever monstrosity they can find in the Midwest and put it in chains until it's time for battle.
Nice.
Looks like their cousins in
This
space.
is like Ohio.
If you find you're about to be captured by them, it's probably best to just off yourself. They may not have quite as exotic measures of torturing you, but they make up for it with a real go-getter attitude in the field of human rights violations. There's a holiday called Blood Night. The cult of the god of murder goes around and kidnaps people to murder. They steal...
Yeah, I know it's cliched at this point, but I love like the super sexy armor style. Like I said, I'm a big pulp fan. You know, that was all like Conan the Barbarian wearing nothing but a loincloth. And there's a beautiful woman always in there. There's been some depictions of Jarell of Jory. Kind of like that, but also in like plate armor. It kind of varies depending on the artist's interpretation. But Jarell of Jory is very cool. Just angry French woman that is in fact too angry to die and travels to hell just because she hates one guy that much.
To be trained as witch elves like them, and they throw elven boys in a cauldron of boiling blood. If they survive, they get trained as an assassin. I don't think a concrete statistic has ever been given, but you can assume that not many...
It reminds me, because I feel like there's gonna be like a lot of Elric in here. And Elric is a very influential like series of obviously like the cursed sword with the Dark Elf King, but there was also a real fucked up celebration. Well, celebration it was more like a tradition where it was like everyone thought Elric was dead, and it's like, all right, King's dead. In honor of him, all you nobles out there, and keep in mind, Melon and Bananas do not understand the concept of morals. Like, it's physically impossible for them. Like, all right, all the nobles, go out and spread your seed amongst the commoners. We need more nobility because the king died. A king, not the king. A king.
People survive this. If you like being edgy, either ironically or because you think suffering is inherently deep, you'll like the Druchii. I can already feel the viewer retention going down, though, from how long I've been talking about elves, so how about we move to their polar opposites?
The dwarfs.
Elves are posh, regal, and always at least a little bit uptight. Dwarfs are brash, to the point, and consider sobriety a sin. While the elves of Warhammer have a few things that make them stand out a bit from the standard elf template, the dwarfs of Warhammer could fit in just about any setting with minimal issue. They like drinking, they like mining, they hate orcs, and getting them to complement non-dwarf craftsmanship is like pulling teeth from an orc. They hate magic both because it's weird elf nonsense, and because when the old ones made the dwarves, they made them so opposed to magic their mere presence makes it not work properly. They love mining
Oh,
and
that's
mountains
cool.
because that's just what dwarfs love. They do have three things that make them stand out, though. First is that it's pronounced dwarfs, not dwarves. Second is that these dwarfs are industrious little fellas. They've discovered oil and how to use
They
it.
have
With it,
helicopters.
helicopters, trains, and more. While humanity has galleons with cannons and the elves have either magical dragon ships or city-sized slave ships, the dwarfs have ironclads, submarines.
Look, if I learned anything from Pathfinder, gun beats dragon every time. Because dragons are nothing but natural armor. Guns penetrate natural armor. And what was that one anime? Gate. Where just like the Japanese military just fucking curb stomped all the like the fancy people. Like it wasn't even like a challenge at all.
And aircraft carriers. They hate using them because no proper dwarf would ever be happy with anything but solid earth under their feet, but they have them. They're slow to change to the point that anything less than 500 years old gets you complained at if you suggest using it, but at least some of them understand that the 20-barreled artillery piece is nice to have even if
The people of OK Boomer.
The second is that these
wait,
dwarfs
hold
are
on.
the embodiment of the word spy.
Is that a cannonball? Because they're underground. It's either a cannonball. I think it's a cannonball because there's like spray here. I was gonna say, is there a fucking moon under there? Is this like center of the earth shit? Hollow Earth?
Even if their ancestors might not approve. The second is that these dwarfs are the embodiment of the word spite. They're bitter that the other races won't just conform to proper dwarf ways. They hate orcs and goblins for ruining their once great cities. They hate the elves for that war they got into thousands of years ago. A war that ultimately started, mind you, because the dwarf diplomat forcibly had his beard shaved. There were some other factors leading up to it, but that was the final straw. The average dwarf doesn't know about the lizardmen much, but they'd certainly hate them too if they knew the Slann were involved in shifting some mountain ranges around that destroyed a whole lot of dwarf holds. Have you ever wronged a dwarf? Into the book you go. The Great Book of Grudges, that is. Every single thing that has in some way wronged the dwarf race is put down in there. Most dwarf holds have their own personal ones for slight against them in particular. Some dwarfs have their own personal book. Even if they don't, they have photographic memory. If you've wronged them, they'll remember. It doesn't even need to be on purpose. A human town once shorted the dwarfs 2 coins by accident in exchange for some construction work. The dwarfs sent an army and killed everyone in it. If this happens to
oh my god, for 2 what's the value of 2 gold coins? This also does remind me of a really cool concept from Dark Sun, where like the dwarves have like a life quest, and if they do not complete that life quest, they will turn into a revenant and start killing things as a revenant. Thought that was such a cool concept that made them more than just fucking dirt people.
You try to seek some sort of retribution for this insane idea of compensation they seem to have, you're going back in the book for any harm you might cause doing it. They will spend
vicious cycle
centuries and entire military campaigns fighting wars to right grudges, and naturally anything that happens to them during these campaigns leads to more grudges, which leads to them trying to right those grudges, which causes more grudges. You know that saying about digging 2 holes when you set out for revenge? 2 holes is not nearly enough for the Dowie. And who could forget the Slayers? Let's say you're a dwarf, and you committed some seriously dishonorable action. Maybe your negligence led to other dwarfs getting killed. Maybe you fled at the height of a battle. Or maybe you just lost a bit too much money on a bet, or had your beard shaved against your will. In any of those cases, there's only one option available to you. Kill yourself. Take the Slayer oath and die in battle. There's no redeeming yourself in any way but death. There's funerals held for those who take the Slayer oath.
Is that a goblin riding a spider? Okay, yeah, I see his legs. I thought, was that like a goblin spider centaur?
Through to them yet. If you want some great books that explore Slayers, dwarfs, and the Warhammer world, read Gotrek and Felix. Read Gotrek and Felix anyway. Do it. Now. Well, the dwarfs certainly have their work cut out for them.
Look at Godric and Felix.
Regardless. They
That
can't
looks
use
like a
magic
cool, like,
wizards,
buddy cop
instead they grab
swashbuckler
it by the
thing.
balls and hit it with a hammer until it works perfectly how they want
What was it? The something in the Mauser, I think,
the more
from
respected they are, and there's even
back in the
a military
day.
unit called Longbeards. If their beard can touch the floor, they get equipped with some of the best armor dwarf money can buy. They've got the finest weapons in the setting, the finest armor in the setting, and while they may be slow as all hell, if they catch you, it's game over. If you like facial chair, hate change, and
Facial
despise other
chair.
people for being different, take a look at the dwarfs. Imagine
Chaos
dwarves
dwarves.
without that silly grudge ideology. You've committed a wrong and have to make up for it, but you can right it without causing your own death. And what's
Oh.
more, you can properly use magic. Fireball and lightning
Okay.
and all those other lovely spells you can think of. Without the shackles of tradition or even their own biology holding them back, they can produce wonders of both magic and industry. Unfortunately, they replace stupid grudges with one of the most horrific slaver cultures around, and they force
Okay.
them to worship actual demons and dark gods.
It's like, we don't have
And being
slavery,
angry at
you have
magic isn't
indentured
necessarily
servitude.
a good thing, because it eventually turns them into stone statues. These are the Chaos Dwarfs, and they're horrifying in a way the more human followers of Chaos can only dream of being. Saying they take the best of the dwarfs is sort of overstating it, because the best of the dwarfs is their willingness to stand by both the letter and spirit of their word. They'll have your back no matter what. Plus, while their incredible stubbornness does hold them back from a lot of progress they can make and gets them into some stupid conflicts, it also means they're not only going to accomplish
Nice
whatever they
dragon
set out to
poetry,
do,
by the
but
way.
they'll stand by your side. If the dwarfs say they're going to help you, they're going to help you. And if a human, dwarf, and elf are all fighting together, the dwarf is going to be the last one to break. The Chaos Dwarves take these traits and have molded them in a way that is best suited to being an evil bastard. The craftsmanship of the
Yay.
dwarfs makes weapons, yes, but also architectural wonders and genuine pieces of art so good it can make a man weep. The Chaos Dwarfs make hell factories that are 2,000% efficient.
Oh,
and make
that's
the most brutal
sick.
weapons Chaos has to offer. They take the runic magic of the dwarfs and use it to bind demons into their weapons and armor. The demons aren't happy with this, but the Chaos Dwarfs are still dwarfs. They're so good at what they do that more often...
It's like the, was it the Iron Warriors that would just, like, summon demons and trap them into their, like, war machines?
Not, the demons are powerless once the dwarfs get their hands on them. They aren't numerous, and they aren't even terribly expansionist.
They
but
look
when
a
the
lot
Chaos
like
Dwarfs do
orcs.
go to war, there's nothing that can truly equal
They're
it.
like
The
teeth.
finest weapons and armor just like the dwarfs, only now bolstered with the power of Hellspawn. They even have the closest thing to a nice chaos god to worship, which gives them all sorts of benefits. Hashut. Sure, he's called the father of darkness and is the god of tyranny and is overall exactly as evil as you'd expect from that, but he doesn't screw the dwarfs over. They want power, he likes it when tyrants are in power, so in exchange for them using their dwarf talents to enslave others, he gives them power. The most commonly seen use of Chaos Dwarfs is as artillery crewmen for the Hell
It's
King,
interesting that
as
there's
well
more
as
than
for
just, like, the
using
4
some
Chaos
weapons
Lords.
and armor. This is because of
Seems
both
like there's
their
a lot more
isolationist
gods here, which is
nature and
nice.
because they don't really have an army. They do have legacy rules for
It's a
the
fucking
Underworld, and
Ghost
they
Rider
have
Hell
an army,
Cannon.
unlike Cathay, but their status is proper.
Was it the Penance Stare?
All over the
The
place.
Penance
Still, though,
Cannon.
if you don't mind legacy rules and finding either old minis or third-party ones to use, you can feel the Chaos Dwarf army. So if you like the dwarfs but wish they were horrendous in every way possible, check out the Chaos Dwarfs. Just get used to people calling them chorfs. Not the most dignified name in that one. The ogres were the last race the old ones made before pissing off. They're resistant to chaos, tough unlike the elves, capable
He made
of changing
those?
things up quickly unlike the dwarfs, and are as ambitious and fluid as mankind.
Oh, look at his funny
Unfortunately, the
hat.
old ones couldn't quite get them to stop eating everything in sight and never properly finish them before they left, or their homeland.
God left them
When chaos invaded,
unfinished.
the ogres were left unfinished in this state, and many became nomadic after they ate everything in whatever their first homeland was. They also ate the
They ate their
ancestors of the modern
homeland. Oh my
giants, who were
god.
a whole lot smarter, wiser, and powerful than the inbred alcoholic morons that giants are in Warhammer today. Things were made worse for them when they decided to migrate into Cathay, because the Dragon Emperor dropped a meteor on their homeland and blew it up. Now they had nowhere to return to, were still really hungry, and that meteor
Just lived next to the giant mall. Okay.
It's a big hole in the ground with teeth, and the ogres throw food and people into it to get magical powers. They also worship a volcano and drink its lava to get fire magic.
It's like Marcus from Borderlands 2. Guns, 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 guns.
Based on Mongolia, but I don't think Genghis Khan ever ate.
Okay, so that's why they're in Carthay.
Killed everyone in it, sure, but I don't think there was mass cannibalism. The ogres, though, do exactly that. Everything about them revolves around food. Their social hierarchy is in large part determined by how fat you are. They have a race of goblinoid slaves called Noblars they employ as equal parts pack mule, assistant chefs, and snacks. They go to war
They're
to
the
eat
pack
other
mules,
races'
eh?
food and or the other races. One of the most common ways you'll see ogres around is as
His
mercenaries.
hands are just
Because while
butcher
they are
blades.
stupid, they're smart enough to realize being a mercenary means you can travel the world sampling all the food you can find, and you'll even get paid for the trouble. The gut is a sacred part of an ogre's body.
Oh, the
to the
concept
point
art
that
is so cool.
oftentimes it's the only part of an ogre they keep protected with armor. That might sound stupid, but consider they're twice as tall, 4 times as wide, and 8 times as heavy as a normal person, and can reliably defeat demon invasions. The closest thing to an ogre's central government is Greece's Goldtooth tribe that sets
God,
up
he
toll
really
booths
does
as the
look like a
trading routes
Walmart
between
shopper.
Cathay and the old world. Aside from that, though, they can be literally anywhere. They're happy to sell their
His-
services to all races, and sometimes they can even...
His mace, the spikes are made out of sapphire. As a Del Toro Quest fan, this pleases me greatly.
become corrupted by chaos. Being resistant to chaos, corruption, and immune to it are different things, especially if they willingly join for one reason or another. Sometimes they even
Food.
embrace the cultures of the places they go willingly. An ogre isn't exactly gonna fit in an
Nice
imperial nobles
anchor for a
party, but are you
weapon.
gonna tell the 9-foot-tall slab of muscle with a racial reputation for eating people that he's being a bit of a slob? No, you aren't.
No,
If
just
someone
smile and
does,
wave.
everyone at your fancy dinner party now has some rather gruesome entertainment, while your ogre guest has dessert. The chaos
here we
demons
go,
are pretty
chaos.
similar between Fantasy and 40k. They're all servants/bits of a greater god. Sufficient concentrations of magic can allow them to show up, and when a wizard messes up their spell, they can manifest that way too. They want to tear down the
Whoopsies.
mortal world and bring ruin to the realms of man, elf, and dwarf, all that good stuff you can expect of demons. The only real difference is how they came about. In 40k, all the Chaos Gods have birthdays. Slanesh has the most concrete one, but the other ones at one point very much came into existence. Warped timey-wimey cop-out garbage means they've also always existed, but I don't care about that. In fantasy, they have always existed, though. They're just evil gods who exist to ruin stuff. It's how it works. Chaos came about when they broke through the portals on each of the planet's poles when the old ones...
I can't remember in Vermintide, which one was the most ball-busting? I don't think it was Corn. I think Corn's was the easiest. I think it might have been Slanesh, where, like, there's some missions where, like, a random Chaos God would, like, try to fuck with you and, like, do environmental stuff. One of them was, like, really painful.
Them to ferry materials and magic to their
I think it was like you either like had to stay close to each other or you had to stay apart because you were gonna blow up or something.
Other positive aspects. Only a small bit, though. Korn still likes war, Nurgle still likes disease, Tzeentch still likes scheming, and Slanesh still likes degeneracy. Same demon units, same greater demons. Hell, most of the named demons are the same. Where they really shine and differentiate between settings isn't their followers. Let's get GW's least favorite child out of the way first. The Beastmen are a cross between beasts and men. Being born of chaos itself, the Dark Gods don't need to bribe them with gifts to ensure their worship. Unfortunately for them, this means the Beastmen rarely, if ever, get any gifts from the gods. They know they always have their worship, so they get the scraps the proper Chaos Warriors get. Given that one theory of how they came about...
It's like the one child that is like, they can take care of themselves, versus the absolute fucking train wreck that needs more attention to, like, correct their path. Like, you never pay attention to me. Well, yeah, because you can take care of yourself. Look, we got a lot of work with the other kid. Okay.
About is man and beast getting a bit too friendly with each other, I don't feel too bad for them. Don't let that fool you, though. While the nations of men consider them to be a nuisance for all but the most isolated towns, and the dwarves view them similarly, the wood elves know the true danger they represent. In the forest of the world, millions of them
big
lurk.
fucking minotaur.
Or entire swaths of the country are trampled underneath their hooves. They defile nature with their every step, and won't stop their savage crusade until the civilized peoples of the world exist in a constant state of being hunted by their bestial overlords. At least that's what we're told in between lore blurbs of them being butchered like the cattle they look like. For the love of God, at least the Eldar are powerful on the tabletop more often than not. The Beastmen usually suck on tabletop and in the lore. I'm trying to be
that's unfortunate because they're kind of cool.
I wasn't for Bretonia because I hate them. I'm not for the Beastmen because I pity them. For what it's worth, though, they are incredibly
that's so cool, though.
Setting. Villages at the frontier of
that one skink gonna have a real bad time.
Raiders, and when they gather in force, they'll be wiped off the map at a moment's notice. And since they're all part animal, they have incredibly sharp senses. If you get in a fight with one while you're traveling, it's already game over.
So I wonder if they're like a singular animal, if they could be like hybrid animals, like chimeras.
Fight is a different story. The Beastmen are a savage race to the point that things like intact walls drive them to frothing rage, such as their hatred for civilization. All they do in their free time is get into brutal fights amongst each other, sometimes involving one challenging another for a position in the hierarchy, but usually just to assert dominance or for fun. hunt people, and drink. They do have some forms of worship for the Chaos Gods.
Okay, yeah, because this guy's got wings.
Construct effigies and are actually revered by other beastmen as something above their common squabbling, but for the most
Very
part,
fashionable.
they're every stereotype of barbarians squashed into one. Aside from the shamans, they have no desire to form their own culture, civilization, or cities. They just want to hunt like the beasts they are. The beastmen may be a bit of an acquired taste, but for what it's worth, I don't think I've ever seen people...
I wonder, because these guys look an awful lot like the beastmen from Diablo. Like Diablo 3. And I know there are people at Blizzard that are big Warhammer fans because of StarCraft. I wonder if that's where they got their idea for Beastmen, was from Warhammer Fantasy.
Beastmen players with anything but some measure of respect. While the Beasts of Chaos are no more, the OG Beastmen of Fantasy have returned to the tabletop. If you like the idea of being this savage force of nature that just wants to ruin, all the while being backed by the Dark Gods,
it does sound fun.
For you. Just don't expect to win all that often. Part of the respect Beastmen players get is for sticking with an army that Games Workshop seems to hold in utter contempt.
Warriors of
Chaos.
Chaos.
Biased, but I do not care for the motivations of most of the Traitor Legions. They strike me as like listening to a story about me and my siblings not getting along when we were kids, which I'm sure is at least partly intentional, but that's not the kind of motivation I want.
Okay, yeah, some of them definitely, like Conrad Kurz is like a real fucked up. The Death Guard guy, okay, he was like super fucking petty. Like, yo, I wanted to be the fucking hero. Like, no, stop. You're a shit. Angron, though, sounds like he would be it, but no, this is kind of justified. Like, all my friends are dying, I want to fight and die with them. No, you're coming with me. But Papa, I said, what the fuck, where am I? I slapped you and I took you with me. Where are my friends? They're probably all dead.
For why someone sold their soul to the forces of hell, at least not on a faction-wide level. By contrast, let's look at the Warriors of Chaos motivations for worshipping chaos. I'd say there's two blanket ones you can say. The reasonable one is that they live in the barren, icy lands of Norska. Aside from the
Skull Mountains,
permafrost covers the whole land. No crops can be grown, and few animals are around to hunt. Because of their proximity to the North Pole, where the realm of chaos intersects with reality, a lot of those animals are heavily...
I was wondering why it was always so cold.
Demonic. A lot of these people are also almost
chaos is always where cold is.
Sigmar, as a lot of the ones who live there now are the descendants of the ones Sigmar forced out when he was forming the Empire. With all that in mind, I think it's at least understandable that these people would turn to the Chaos Gods for protection and worship. If the only option of worship is the guy who's all about plague, you might as well hope he's in a good mood and will keep the plague at bay in exchange.
A good example of this is in Pillars of Eternity, where the Ice Elves, one of their major gods, is like the god of like winter, plague, decay, oblivion, things like that. Like, well, why would you fucking listen to that? Well, because it's fucking cold and you don't want that shit to happen to you.
For a few sacrificed Southerners. The other motivation, while less relatable, is also much more fun. Just wanting to be an evil, powerful overlord. Why do you worship the Dark Gods? Because they give you ultra-powerful cursed armor you can use to give them more sacrifices to gain more power with. Why do you slaughter the name of the Blood God and all the others? Because it's fun. Who gives a damn about morality?
Because it's so much fun, Jan, get it.
So it obviously had to go. If the Blood Dragons are a heavy metal album cover, the Warriors of Chaos are every heavy metal album cover combined into one. Kill for the Dark Gods at every possible moment. Let loose your darkest desires into the world, because you have the explicit backing of the powers that be to do so. The Norskins who live in the frozen north will make pilgrimages to the northern pole and realm of chaos to become true warriors of darkness. If they're unlucky or unworthy, they'll turn into chaos spawn or demon food. If they're lucky or worthy enough, they'll become mighty chaos lords. And if they're really lucky and get just the right amount of attention from their gods, they can become demon princes of chaos, immortal beings with the blessings of the gods themselves to pillage across the world in their name. Look at this dude. He has 4 weapons visible alone, and his armor looks like he just grabbed every single bit of scrap metal around and had a demon turn into
he's shaped like Nito.
To look at. If you want to play the bad guys who revel in being bad guys for the sake of it, the Warriors of Chaos have no equal. But believe it or not, these guys aren't the evilest faction. love
the
the
rat
Skaven.
boys, the
Take a
cheese
rat,
boys.
make it person-sized, walk on 2 legs, and fill it with hate. Now let them outnumber everyone else combined by a factor of 10, give them energy weapons and the foulest of magics, and a desire to see everyone else brought low before them. With that, you have the Skaven, and they are truly glorious. Unlike the Chaos Gods, their god of the Horned Rat has absolutely no positives. His only
The
little
Horned
territory in
Rat.
the realm of Chaos is the realm of Ruin. It sucks, and in there is a greater demon of his for every single Skaven, all of whom also suck. With numbers and power like they have, there's only one reason the Skaven haven't already taken over the world. The thing their god and race embodies more than anything
They
else
kill
is the word
themselves.
asshole. They hate the other races for sure. They're petty and spiteful enough that even though they don't have any uses for gold, they mine it solely because it inconveniences everyone else.
What's up,
They hate
Kazuki?
each other only a fraction,
Welcome, I'm learning about
fraction
Warhammer
less than they
Fantasy.
hate everyone else. They're also all power-hungry morons who are convinced that if they were in charge, they could lead Skavendom to victory. And
Yeah,
of
the
course,
reason they haven't
themselves
taken
to
over is because they
the
keep
luxury and
butchering
power.
each
So
other.
one will have a plan to defeat a dwarf army, and then all his underlings immediately begin sabotaging each other to look good for the commander, sabotaging the commander to take his place,
Deciding
and then
what to play.
sabotaging themselves
Oh, I've
because
been
they're
there, that good old
They eat
gaming
each other for
quagmire.
food, the Skaven at the top bully the ones below them, and this lovely form of Reaganomics trickles all the way down to the common
Probably Dragon's
rat
Dogma.
bullying
Oh,
Skaven
1 or
slaves
2.
because the rat above him bullied him because the rat above him bullied him. Of course, none of this matters in terms of defeating them.
The chain of command
They're
immediately
There's
shatters.
a reason the only human inhabited
1.
place
Right,
on
I
Earth
played a
that
little bit
doesn't
of
have
1.
rats is Alberta. The Skaven
Wasn't
literally
bad.
breed like rats because they are. In the time it takes you to kill one, they've already given birth to another 1,000. In a chapter from a Skaven character's point of view, the commanding wizard of the Skaven army remarked it was impressive how they managed to pull off a victory despite only outnumbering the enemy 4-1. When a 4-1 ratio is what they consider to be a pretty even fight, you can rest easy, knowing there's a lot of rats under your feet. Or don't rest easy. I wouldn't. And of course their
No.
technology. It's the best in the world. They have nuclear weapons.
'Cause of course.
They burrow under the ground and put them under people or places they don't like, which is everywhere and everyone.
Oh my god, if I had a penny for every pixel, I'd have 3 pennies.
The High Elf home and Athelloren, the Wood Elf home. They can't get to Ulthuan because it's a floating island continent that doesn't touch the sea floor. There's no ground for them to dig up under through. They can't get to Athelloren, meanwhile, because the ground itself is alive and actively hates them for trespassing.
Oh.
They'll send thousands of their slaves and basic soldiers to death in order to slightly soften up.
Storytelling
defenses.
is
As far as the Council of 13
storytelling Itsuno does is crazy game gaslights you into things and you start questioning what's right or wrong for Dragon's Dogma.
Magically powered Gatling guns, throwing poison
I
gas
got
at
too
you,
much in the
and
story. I
lighting
mean, I
on
know the
fire
general
with magically
premise,
powered
like the
flamethrowers.
dragon and
Every single
stuff,
one of
but
those things has the potential to break and kill the operators because the magic rocks powering it are incredibly unstable, and it just doesn't matter to the Skaven. Other Skaven killed are other potential rivals killed, and everyone else they kill is one less obstacle to Skaven domination over the world. That magical substance they use to power their weapons is a rock called warpstone, by the way.
man, they
The
really
Skaven
do
cover
favor
it
the
above all
Skaven, don't
else.
they?
They use it to power pretty much
Like, yeah, there's a
everything that
shit
isn't
ton of
manually
them. Yeah,
powered,
there's also, they have the best
slave rats.
technology. No,
Whether
yeah, they
used for
actually win in the end.
to boost their magical strength, boost their physical strength, as food, and as a cocaine equivalent. Everyone else who touches
Yay.
the stuff either mutates or dies on the spot, and for the Skaven it's nose candy. If they sound goofy,
Holy
it's
shit, is
because
Total
they
War
are.
Warhammer a Sega
Consider what it's
game?
like on the other side of a Skaven invasion. You're walking down the
Wild.
street, things have been a bit
Oh.
rough with the goings on in the town.
I played
Nothing that can't be
Vermintide.
explained by natural causes. Then all you hear is explosions, the sounds of the most horrifying mutated monstrosities ever conceived, and right as you turn the corner, all you see is dozens of beady red eyes staring at you with full intent to kill and eat you.
Anime,
That's if
however,
you're
was
lucky.
trash.
On the other end of
Didn't have
things,
anything to do with the
Skaven are
game.
horrifying. There's a lot
That's
more
what
about the
happens when
Skaven
you
I could say.
hand the
Here's a
reins
quick and
to a
easy way to
Dojin
know if you
writer.
like 'em. If you despise everything about
Ah,
everyone
so
around
that
you,
explains
know
all the
for a fact you
horniness.
should be in charge of everyone because you're clearly right, and altruism makes you want to curl up and die, you'll like the Skaven. Or alternatively, if you want to rock up to a fantasy setting with machine guns, magical artillery, and nuclear bombs, they're for you too. And I believe that is every major fantasy faction, and a lot of the minor ones.
There's quite a
If you're
lot.
new to fantasy, I hope this was a decently informative primer. If you aren't, I hope something in here was funny. Thank you as always to my wonderful channel members.
Oh, good
You are
lord.
the Warhammer Fantasy to my Warhammer, the backbone of everything that has come before and since.
My god, that's
If
a
you'd like to
lot.
support the channel, feel free to subscribe or become a member. Either way, thank you for watching and take care out there.
Okay, well, I really like that.
There's a whole faction of vampire pirates I didn't really talk about. For the overall lore, they're just not important, but one of them has
Yo, what the fuck? It's a fucking living ship. That one's also got crab legs.
is the largest navy in the world. That's what Warhammer Fantasy considers forgettable. A pirate.
You're fucking kidding me. A pirate vampire legion is forgettable. Man, you really get blue ball when you're a Warhammer Fantasy fan, it feels like.
Vampire with the largest navy in the world. Total War only for the most part, but hey, it's pretty cool to play in that.
Huh. No. No. No, not again. What the fuck? Oh, it's fucking Vulcan. Anyways, that was really cool. I like that. Let's see here. Let's go through this again. The greenskins, they're orcs. There's not much you can do. I like the idea of the lizard men. Sexy Russian Ice Queen is Sexy Russian Ice Queen Kislev. Bretonia. Carthay was super sick, actually. And then, let's see here. I'm trying to think of like the ones I like the most. The Tomb Kings. I really like the Tomb Kings. The Tomb Kings were super sick. And then the elves? The elves are actually kind of cool. I'm a sucker for like, well, because I read a bunch of fucking Elric books. I'm a big fan of the cursed sword trope. And I do like how they kind of like naturally split apart between the high and dark elves. Dark elves were cool. No bias whatsoever. And here. It's a shame the Beastmen are kind of pathetic. They seemed kind of cool. But yeah, honestly, Tomb Kings. Tomb Kings might have been it for me. But yeah, that was every Warhammer Fantasy faction explained by Pancreas No Work. I would copy this if I could. Actually, can I just do this?
Allowed.
No, it still shows the fucking reaction slot playlist. Anyways. Yeah, I'll probably look more into the Warhammer Fantasy here. My interest has been piqued. Haven't I seen that Fashion Abomination somewhere before? Damn, got him. Z Formation. Now canonically in my head, I now have a wild MILF in my party.